She stopped replying. Her energy changed. And now, you're left with silence, wondering what went wrong. You want to call her. You want to explain. You want to prove you're still worth it. But deep down, you know, the more you chase, the further she pulls away. This isn't just about her. It's about you, your identity, your discipline, your inner strength. Stoicism doesn't teach you to get her back. It teaches you something far more powerful: how to get yourself back calm, grounded, unshaken. If you're tired of begging for clarity, if you're done living on edge, waiting for a reply, then stay with me. Because this isn't a story of trying harder, it's a story of standing still and finally rising. She won't come back. If you keep reacting emotionally, maybe you've experienced this feeling before yesterday morning. Everything seemed perfectly fine, but today, she suddenly becomes distant. Responses gradually fade. Her gaze changes, and finally silence. Perhaps she leaves. Perhaps she becomes indifferent, or worse, yet doesn't leave you with a clear explanation. At that moment, your mind becomes a battlefield. You wake up in the middle of the night, checking your messages. You reread every conversation, every expression, every silence, desperately searching for reasons. You find yourself wanting to call, text, begging for an explanation or another chance. You believe that if you say the right words or do enough, she will return. But the harsh reality is, the more emotionally you react, the further you push her away. An emotionally reactive man is easily manipulated. He turns his pain into impulsive actions. He lets anxiety control his words, causing him to lose his inherent attractiveness. Meanwhile, a Stoic man pauses, not because he feels no pain, but because he understands that actions born from fear only lead to weakness. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Pain is inevitable, but how you respond to pain, that is a choice. When you remain silent with mindfulness, you send a different signal. I don't need to react. I can stand firm through the storm. I can breathe deeply and let the waves pass. This not only makes her reconsider, more importantly, it frees you from becoming a victim of your own emotions. At the moment she leaves, your first step should not be action, but stillness. Observe your pain, acknowledge it, but do not rush to react. Slow down, breathe deeply, and remember, no one deserves control over your mind, not even someone you once loved. Only when you choose calmness over panic, observation over reaction, can you begin rebuilding your true worth. And then, you no longer chase after her. You begin your journey back to yourself. This cold truth is why you've lost her. No one wants to admit this, but eventually you must face it. The truth is, you didn't lose her because you weren't good enough. You lost her because you've lost yourself. Perhaps it began when you became too dependent, adjusting every action to please her, forgetting the boundary between caring and compromising your identity just to keep her around. She didn't leave because of your imperfections. She left because you're no longer the man who made her feel safe, no longer someone with clear direction, strength, and emotional steadiness. And here's the hardest part to hear. The more you show her that you need her to be happy, the less attractive you become. In a relationship, a man who loses control over his emotions gradually loses his position. He ceases to lead. He gets pulled into a spiral of anxiety, doubt, and emotional overreaction. When she distances herself, you try to pull her back. When she stops texting, you text more. When she goes silent, you keep asking questions. You think this is love, but to her, these are signs of instability. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to us, but our reaction to it that causes suffering." You don't need to change the past. You need to change how you respond to reality. She may not clearly explain her reasons for leaving, but your behavior afterward provides the confirmation. If you continue reacting emotionally, you won't just lose her, you'll lose your self-respect. Yet, this is also an opportunity not for clinging, but for rebuilding. Awakening begins by facing the truth directly, no excuses, no blame, simply recognizing this isn't just a story about love, it's a lesson in maturity. When you learn to sit with the truth without being broken by it, you stop fearing it. And that is the beginning of inner freedom. The more you chase, the further away she goes. Stop now before it's too late. When someone leaves your life, your instinct usually pushes you to chase after them. The human mind hates loss. You don't want the feeling of missing out or being rejected, and so you start acting as though you need to prove something. You text more often, you either pretend to be stronger, or conversely, show weakness, and beg. You express your emotions impulsively, hoping she'll realize your feelings are deep enough to bring her back. But the truth is, each time you chase, you push her a bit further away, not because you're insincere, but because chasing in panic signals insecurity, loss of control, and lack of self-mastery. Stoicism teaches, the wise know when to act and when to remain silent. You think doing something might improve the situation, but in reality, mindful silence is precisely what makes her clearly feel your absence. Silence isn't punishment. Silence is about reclaiming the energy you've scattered outward. She will start wondering, why isn't he reaching out anymore? Has he moved on? Is he changing, living his own life without me? That ambiguity and distance reignite attraction, not explanations or emotional texts filled with tears. It is deep, deliberate silence. You can't control someone else's feelings through words, but you can make them reconsider through your presence or your absence. All you need to do now is stop. Stop clinging. Stop reacting. Stop trying to fix what lies beyond your control. When you pause mindfully, you not only regain natural attraction, you begin mastering yourself. Make her regret losing you by becoming someone she can no longer reach. Do you want her back? Don't text. Don't explain. Don't try to prove you're worthy. Instead, become a man she no longer has the chance to be with. But not by pretending or deliberate showing off, rather through true transformation from within. Don't change for her, change for yourself. When you stop looking outward and start turning inward, you'll realize attraction isn't about appearance, but presence, how you walk, talk, choose, and maintain your values in your weakest moments. She won't be attracted to a man trying to prove himself. She'll be attracted to a man with direction, discipline, and living his life without needing her validation. Rebuild every part of the man you've lost. Your body through disciplined exercise. Your mind by reading, writing, and contemplation. Your emotions by observing rather than reacting. Your relationships by expanding beyond your old circle. Seneca once wrote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." You can't know if she'll return, but if she does, you'll no longer be the man who was left behind. You'll be the man she must win back. And if she doesn't return, you still win. Because this journey is no longer about making someone else regret. It's about ensuring you never regret who you've become. The deepest regret doesn't come from losing someone else. It comes from losing the person you could have become. Don't let that happen again. Don't be the one who clings. Let her come back once you've changed. One of the biggest mistakes after a breakup is trying to pull someone back when you're still the same man, wounded, confused, and lacking direction. You want her to come back. Then be honest. Is your current version truly worthy of being chosen again? Instead of trying to win back the affection of someone who's left, let her feel the distance that naturally forms as you grow. When a woman realizes the man she once left is no longer clinging, no longer desperate, but moving forward with calm and self-possession, it awakens something deep within her. It's not jealousy. It's comparison. Not fleeting regret, but the realization that you're slowly becoming unreachable. If she texts again or reappears through vague signals, don't rush to respond. Not because you're playing games, but because you're slowing down to see clearly. Is she coming back for you, or just to fill the emptiness inside her? Stoicism doesn't teach you how to make others return. It teaches you how to stay grounded when they leave, and to remain mindful if they try to return. If she reaches out, speak with a new kind of energy, composed, confident, no need to overshare or revisit the past. Let her feel like she's meeting someone entirely new. This man is no longer afraid of being left behind. This man no longer needs validation. And that's exactly what makes him irresistibly attractive. You don't need to invite her back into your life. If she truly sees the value you've built, she'll find her way. But this time, you will be the one being chosen. This is the strategy that will make her question leaving you. This isn't a psychological trick. It's not a tactic to manipulate someone's emotions. It's a life strategy, one that helps you reclaim your power and reignite your natural presence. When a woman walks away, she often expects one thing: that you'll react, that you'll cling, that you'll show pain, weakness, or instability as proof of how much she mattered. But when you don't react as she predicted, when you quietly walk away and rebuild your life as if nothing has collapsed, every script in her mind begins to unravel. She starts to wonder, why isn't he as upset as I expected? Has he really moved on? Did I misjudge who he is? And it's within this deliberate silence that she begins to remember. Not the words, but your presence. Not the arguments, but the stability you once had, yet she didn't fully understand. You don't need to send long texts. You don't need to prove that you've changed. You simply need to live as if she was never the condition for your happiness. Doing that isn't easy. It takes discipline. Discipline not to react. Discipline to observe your emotions without acting on them. Discipline to keep building a meaningful life without needing an audience. A man like that cannot be forgotten. He makes others regret in silence and reflect instead of demand explanations. This isn't victory because she came back. It's victory because you never lost yourself, even in your most vulnerable moments. And if she does come back, she'll be the one asking, how did I lose someone like that? If she doesn't come back, you still win. And you'll be stronger than before. You're doing everything right. You've stopped chasing. You're staying silent with calm. You've returned to yourself, training, learning, rebuilding. But the question still lingers. What if she never comes back? That question often carries fear. A part of you still wants a different ending. You want her to see your effort. You want a second chance, a fresh start. But Stoicism doesn't teach you to live for outcomes. It teaches you to live by right action regardless of the result. If she comes back, that's her choice. If she doesn't, that's your lesson. And the most important truth is, you still win. Because now, you're no longer the man undone by a breakup. You are the man who can stand alone, solid, grounded, without needing anyone beside you. You've used your pain to build resilience. You've chosen reason over impulse. You haven't let emotions dictate your actions. And that, to someone living by Stoic principles, is the greatest victory. Seneca once wrote, "A happy man is one who can be satisfied with whatever happens, because he expects nothing but to do what's right." If she returns, you'll be clear-headed enough to decide. If she doesn't, you've already chosen yourself. That's the price of growth. Not easy, not sweet, but deep and lasting. The anxiety will gradually fade. The stress will no longer control you, because you know you've gone through the storm and didn't lose yourself. Don't try to get her back. Get yourself back first. Many men, after a breakup, secretly carry one goal: to get her back, to make her realize her mistake, to make her regret. But that's a trap, the trap of a wounded ego, the trap of a mind that's not yet free. The trap that makes you live to prove something instead of living to be free. You don't need to get her back. What you need is to get yourself back, the man who once lived with principles, direction, and quiet strength. You were that man before the pain made you drift, and you can return to him. But this time, as a deeper version, mature, centered, clear about what's essential and what's temporary. Stoic philosophy doesn't teach you how to win people back. It teaches you how not to lose yourself even when everything you love walks away. And when you do get yourself back, something strange happens. You no longer need her to return. And in that moment, true freedom begins. Freedom from the fear of abandonment. Freedom from being emotionally controlled by others. Freedom from an old dream that no longer fits who you are now. Attraction doesn't come from trying to pull someone back. It comes from the energy of a man who cannot be shaken, who is not needy, who isn't ruled by outcomes. A man like that doesn't need anyone to choose him, because he's already chosen himself. Don't try to bring her back. Bring yourself back with values, discipline, and full presence. Then, whether someone leaves or returns, you've already won in the calmest, most mindful, and most enduring way possible. The mindful pause. Observe before you react. When emotions arise, reacting is the easiest thing to do. You see a message left on read, your heart races, your hand itches to send something. You hear she's seeing someone else. Your mind wants to act, explain, compare, maybe even strike back. That's instinct, and if you don't pause, that instinct will drive you into a spiral of anxiety, insecurity, and regret. But Stoicism teaches you something else. Between emotion and action, there is always a pause, and in that pause, you find freedom. The moment you realize you can observe instead of immediately reacting, that's when you begin to reclaim control. Train yourself to ask 3 questions whenever emotions rise. Where is this emotion coming from? What am I afraid of losing? Does this action reflect the man I want to become? Just by pausing long enough to ask those questions, you've stepped outside the grip of impulsive emotion. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Ask yourself every morning, who will I meet today? Someone selfish, someone disloyal, someone arrogant. But none of them can disturb my peace unless I allow it." You can't control others, but you can control your response. And it all begins with awareness. Apply this practice in real life. Before sending a message, stand up, walk for 5 minutes, breathe deeply. Before calling in anger, write out your emotions but don't send them. Before reacting, admit that you're hurt and know that this is a very human part of you. But you don't need to act from that place. Self-control doesn't come from suppression. It comes from observation and conscious choice. When you train yourself to pause mindfully, you begin to transform from a man ruled by emotion into a man of depth, presence, and calm, felt even without a word. And gradually, through each small, mindful act, you cultivate a new state of being, a state no longer pulled by anxiety, a state that doesn't need to react to prove anything, a state where you clearly know who you are and what truly deserves your presence. Let go of the need to control. Happiness is not in someone else's hands. One of the deepest sources of pain after a breakup doesn't come from someone leaving. It comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled. We want them to come back. We want them to understand how much they hurt us. We want them to realize they were wrong. We want them to change the way we expect. And we believe, if everything goes how we wish, we'll be at peace. But that's an illusion, because the more you try to control others, the more you lose the peace within yourself. Stoicism teaches a powerful lesson. We cannot control what happens, but we can always control how we respond. If you place your happiness in someone else's decision, you give them ultimate power. The power to make you feel joy or sorrow. The power to make you feel worthy or worthless. the power to make you feel whole or broken. And it's this dependence on outcome that keeps you anxious, restless, and waiting. Letting go doesn't mean becoming indifferent. Letting go means accepting that you don't need to control the world in order to live fully within yourself. Ask yourself, what can I do today to become a better version of myself? Am I living according to the values I respect? Am I acting from clarity or from fear of being left behind? If your answers come from within, then you are returning to the one place you truly control, your inner world. You can't control whether she comes back, but you can control whether you would even want someone who no longer aligns with the man you're becoming. That is the greatest freedom. Freedom from expectation, freedom from disappointment, freedom from unanswered questions and lingering anxiety. When you live from a place of inner control, you are no longer a victim of your emotions. You become the one who chooses to choose peace, to choose values, to choose presence and happiness. At that point, no longer comes from having someone but from not losing yourself for anyone. When you no longer need her, that's when you're most attractive. There's a profound paradox in emotional life. When you no longer need someone, you become more attractive than ever. Not because you're playing it cool, not because you're pretending to move on, but because you genuinely no longer live to be chosen. You've chosen yourself. And in the energy of someone who no longer seeks, no longer clings, no longer depends, you emit a rare silence. Not loud, not flashy, but deeply magnetic. She might come back, or she might not, but it no longer defines you, because you've reached another level. You no longer love to fill a void, you love from a place of wholeness. A whole man doesn't need anyone to validate his worth. He doesn't need to win the old relationship to feel strong, because his victory lies in not falling apart after the first blow, in keeping his discipline, ethics, and clarity even on the loneliest nights, and that makes him rare. While most chase attention, he chooses presence. While most react, he chooses observation. While most seek love, he chooses to live in a way that deserves love from within. If she sees you again, she'll realize you're no longer the man who clung out of fear. You're calm, grounded, and full of strength, not because someone returned, but because you've changed for good. She'll see that you no longer need anything from her, and that very truth will make her ask herself, what have I lost? But by then, you won't need the answer, because you're no longer living to be chosen. You're living because you now deeply know who you are and what is truly worth holding on to. You began this journey thinking you wanted to win someone back, but eventually, you realized what you really needed was to win yourself back. Every time you choose silence over reaction, every time you turn inward instead of chasing outward, every time you uphold your values instead of seeking validation, you take another step toward true inner freedom. The most attractive man is not the one loved by many. He's the one who isn't pulled by anyone. So keep walking this path not to prove anything to anyone, but to become the man you can respect when you look in the mirror each day. Because in the end, real power isn't getting her back. It's no longer needing that to feel whole.